Mikey and Will Griffith, my cowboy. How you guys doing tonight?
Awesome. I need to I need to explain why Al isn't here tonight.
Okay.
Al has a chamber event tonight of some importance, and because he is elected to that board, we told him that Godfather Tony would forgive him for not being here tonight.
Hey,
but when he does show up, he makes up for it.
The team is spreading the message any way they can. That's what I care about, right?
Well said. Well said.
Yep.
So there's a lot going on, guys. I guess today is Women International Day or something to that effect.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
No, that is the effect.
You know, I know that we've come a long way since back in the early days and women had no rights, but I'm pretty sure that all women have all the rights that we all have, as far as I'm concerned, right?
Yeah.
Oh, they've definitely made up for lost time. There's no doubt about that.
And I know they talk about money discrepancy, but I don't really believe that truly exists in today's world. A woman police officer makes the same as a man police officer. You know, across the board.
That's an old tale that is no longer true. I was watching a thing this morning, a woman who wrote a book talking about how many women have taken over the jobs of male CEOs because the males failed at their job. And so no, women are women are powerful, and they are influential. And thank God for them too.
And as all three of us know, we're married, right? And our spouses kind of dictate what we do day to day, whether directly or indirectly, right? Whether we want to admit it or not, right? They kind of push us along. So to have a day, like I'm so over everybody having their own special day, right? Because all we're doing is dividing people more and more and more. With all these.
No, this is a good point. This is a good point.
Right. So
I've only got my day once, and that comes up March 17th.
But
I know, but you're Irish, so that's self-explanatory.
But you know what, Mikey? We all celebrate March 17th, don't we?
We do.
See, so there's my point. Why we have it's the same thing with the flags, right? Or groups. If you're going to fly one flag, then you need to fly everybody's flag, right? In the United States, right? If you can't continue to divide the nation like we are by making up days and making up terms to appease one specific group, not thinking of the whole, which is my biggest pet peeve is the Constitution guarantees everyone. It doesn't say women are exempt or, Native Americans are exempt or Puerto Ricans are exempt. Everybody that's here has the same rights as everybody else does. So it's kind of disconcerting that people continue to do this dividing of people, whether it's by gender, by race, by color of your skin, by your job. Who knows anymore?
Sexual orientation. We have become so politically correct, gentlemen, that I think we have lost the core of who we are supposed to be. And if we get into it, that'll bring me to another issue with regard to the recent CPAC conference.
Well, let's talk about the CPAC. Let's talk about something positive.
Well, here's the thing. I see CPAC, when they say they're conservative, they are conservative down to the wire. But the one thing, and I'll get into the candidates and get you both of your take on it in a minute. But look, I have, as far as the Republican candidates in the field at this point, should Kristi Noem decide to opt out of not running for president, should Tulsi Gabbard continue to do what she's doing, at this point, I am supporting Ron DeSantis. at this point. And the reason I am is because his military, his national security, fiscal, economic plan for this country works. Plus, he believes in states' rights. I am concerned with some social issues that he has mentioned, but we can fight that down the road.
Oh, but in Disney World.
It's
well, I'll tell you what he did in Florida. You need to be careful. What he did in Florida is going to have a huge economic impact on Florida.
Right.
And Disney has been doing this for over 50 years plus.
And charging out the yin.
And they will never do that in California because that is a huge draw to the California economy here in the state.
Right.
So what he's doing, government overreach can happen in several different ways. But we have done this before. Look, we have basically, back in the 1980s, the big influencer during the Reagan and Bush administrations was the Christian Coalition and Jerry Falwell's moral majority, which was not moral at all, by the way.
Right.
And today we don't have that. We are fighting a new cultural war. And in order to fight that war, we must remember the Constitution of the United States. So I was concerned with some of the speakers at CPAC, but I was very impressed overall with Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida and also his speech at the Ronald Reagan Library. And so I thought
he didn't go to CPAC, right?
Yeah, he didn't want to go to CPAC.
No, he did.
Right.
Oh no, it was a comment. It was another organization which the conservatives criticized him for.
Well, I
not going.
I know why he probably didn't go, right? Because he
And I
didn't want to
noticed
become. Go ahead.
And I noticed Kristi Noem didn't go to CPAC either.
But Tulsi was.
Well, Tulsi's still trying to find her spot.
I think that by looking at the people that didn't show up, it shows you that the party is split, right? You got
it's wholly divided. You're right, Tony.
You got the homies with MAGA, and then you got the other Republicans, right? And that's going to cause a problem in the election, right?
Let's talk about who did speak at CPAC. Let's talk about Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida.
Yep.
Who got up there? I don't know what he was smoking or what he was snorting. But to call for the that's right. But to call for the abolition of the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Justice Department, the CDC I would consider, but to call for the abolition of the FBI and the United States Department of Justice was not only irresponsible, it was lunatic. It was absolute lunacy. What's he going to replace it with? The MAGA SS? A new secret? And nobody supported him on that. Nobody.
Well, because I think he's trying to make a name for himself. He's been doing that now for a while.
He's trying too hard.
He's in the shadows of DeSantis and Donald Trump. So that's a struggle for him, right? It's an uphill battle. He wants to be the one. And he's trying to be the one, kind of like Trump, right? With nonsense, just saying things that pop into his head. The party's broken. We're not going to win.
The party is divided. And I mention this almost every show when it comes to the Republican Party. I knew Congressman Jack Kemp. I remember when he ran as a vice presidential candidate with Bob Dole in 1996 against Bill Clinton. And the Dole campaign would not listen to Jack Kemp's big tent policy. Look, the country is changing. We talk about in this last midterm election, we talk about voter suppression. We complain about voter suppression on both sides. Republicans complain about it with the Stacey Abrams election.
Right.
We complained about it, and Democrats complain about it too, across the board. But what was the biggest? Our forefathers. Oh, we lost Mike.
Yeah.
Our forefathers literally created this country on voter suppression. Native American Indians couldn't vote. Black people in this country could not vote, and women could not vote. So what did you have? You had an elite group of white property owners that decided how this country is going to be.
Yeah, I mean,
and so the country is changing. We're not going to go back to where we were. The country can't afford it.
No, you make a valid point, but we can also, as we change, again, like you and I always talk about this, like government begins in our homes, right? And any decisions we make, we always make them in the best interest of the family, not the individual, right? So there's going to be some individuals that are disappointed because we can't go to Disneyland this weekend, but we're going to go to Knott's Berry Farm this weekend, right? We don't do a good job as a government with the American people. We don't try to take care of us as a nation versus take care of us as individual groups. Even in local government, right? They're trying to do away with in LA. I don't know if other cities have it. In LA, every individual neighborhood has a prosecutor advisor for that neighborhood, right? And it's been an ongoing project for the last about 10 years. And what that does is it gives the local community the ability to go to that prosecutor and say, hey, I believe there's an illegal gambling going on in this store, or they're selling drugs. And that local prosecutor can reach out with the local police department and legally go in there and do something. Well, they're doing away with that. Karen Bass is doing away with that program. I'm going to be on a call tomorrow because of that. She's going to have my favorite city council person on there, Monica Rodriguez. And I'm going to be able to speak my mind about that, why it's unfair they're doing away with it, to come up with another group of, and I don't know, psychologists or therapists to go out there and deal with certain situations. But, we can't. That stuff doesn't really work. Mikey, you being in law enforcement, what do you think about them?
I was just going to ask that question. Well done.
Say that again, because you were breaking up on my end.
What I'm talking about in Los Angeles, the city of Los Angeles, they're doing it. We have a local prosecutor for every neighborhood. So if we know there's a underground gambling going on or some kind of illegal activity, we can go directly to him. Can you hear me?
Every other word. Yeah, got you now.
Okay. So in LA, they assign local prosecutors for neighborhoods, right? And they're going to do away with that program. And that program, what it did for the last 10 years is assist local law enforcement and neighborhoods on addressing crimes that are going on in the neighborhood. Example, illegal gambling, or how sometimes they have a storefront, but what goes on behind it is illegal. The local community can go to them and they can go after them at the local level without getting involved with, the city district attorney and all that. Well, they're doing away with that program to develop some kind of counseling program to come out to these illegal places and try to resolve, what's going on that way. Again, kind of taking law enforcement out of the picture again in LA. What are your thoughts on what some of these cities are trying to do with law enforcement, replacing them with their psychologists or therapists, kind of thing? I think he's
looks
frozen.
like he's frozen.
Yeah, he's frozen. Well, what do you think, Will?
Well, it goes back. We still have some communities here in California that have the Citizens Watch program,
Right.
wholly volunteer program, and in a good relationship. But they're getting rid of that too. And people should have a look in the age in which we live. People should have a safety net to be able to protect their communities to the best of their ability. It empowers citizens when you enable them to do their job while you have law enforcement on the streets doing their job.
Right.
And to be able to have that community relationship is huge. I watched this situation going on in Louisville, Kentucky, with regard to the police abuse. The Justice Department came out and said no, they did the wrong thing. They overreached, and it was systematic
Right.
in their abuse of power. So we do have this with regard to police departments throughout the country. But when you look at the numbers, we always go back to that thing: a few bad apples can ruin the whole barrel. Well, that's true. That's how you get movements like defund the police and so forth.
Right.
But that is an unrealistic hope for the other side, and an absolute security threat to our communities. And just like what Matt Gaetz said, Congressman Matt Gaetz is supposed to be pro law enforcement. And when he attacks the top law enforcement agency in our country, I think he's full of crap, period. And nobody would agree with abolishing the FBI. And if they do, well, then you need to support Matt Gaetz. But I could never see that happening. And I even talked to Mike after that speech, and Mike said that's ridiculous to even say. And Mike is a staunch Republican.
I think a lot of it is because it's tit for tat, right? Everybody believes that the FBI and Department of Justice is in the pockets of the Democrats. So, hey, I'm going to use this and use it against, tell the people that we're going to abolish it because we want to make sure that whatever law enforcement agency we place in there is something that's going to be beneficial for us. It's just a game they play. They're like kids in a gym.
I understand. No, I understand that. And every administration goes through this. I mean, for God's sake, after 9/11, the Bush administration went through the same thing. Donald Trump had a tumultuous, torrential relationship with his agencies.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the way we need to do it. Reforms, yes. Every agency made by human hands or founded by a human being or a group of human beings can be reformed.
Right.
But to abolish, to throw the baby out with the bathwater is just wholly irresponsible. It is for a congressman to say, for sure. And I always wonder after I heard Matt Gaetz say that, I always wonder what is the guy afraid of? Introduce reforms, not abolition, for God's sake.
Yeah,
it's stupid.
It's nonsense, and people with common sense aren't going to follow that lead anyway, right? You're going to get the radicals that might follow it, the far right people, or some other organization, but not the normal sane person. And that's where I think we do a good job, because we want to make sure that people have all the information. We don't have to agree with their decision, but they need to have all the information before they make that decision.
Look, I don't care what government organization we're talking about. Now, if you want to talk about abolishing certain agencies, well, let's start with the U.S. Department of Education, which should be a states' rights issue anyway. Education should be a states' rights issue, a community issue, and a parental issue in the final analysis.
Absolutely. And you know how I feel about that.
And what? Yes, I do. And but when it comes to look, you know what a lot of people don't realize. You know, you hear the FBI, you watch it on television, you hear them in the news. The work that these men and women do every day, the unsung heroes, really, of our domestic security, are the ones that catch terror. They're the ones that catch the terrorists before they strike. You never hear about how many terrorist attacks in this country have been thwarted because of the men and women of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. You never hear that. You always hear the bad points. And the same thing with our local law enforcement too. You never hear about the unsung heroes that do the right thing, show empathy and compassion for somebody that might be in trouble, even a homeless person or a kid that gets into trouble. You never hear those stories. You always hear the bad. That's the media's job, to tear down the institutions that these guys and gals, they wake up every morning around the clock and they do what they have to do to protect this country. And to suggest that we defund the police or abolish. I mean, I can't believe Matt Gaetz isn't part of BLM, for God's sake.
Well, if you think about it, and I'll talk from a business perspective, it's the same thing in business, right? They never want to highlight what people are doing well. They always want to focus on all the stuff that you don't do so well, and try to bash you, right? Instead of trying to be not a motivator per se, but hey, thank you for doing a great job with what you did. But you know what? We can work on this to make this a little better.
That's exactly.
You're a shithead, right? You're a shithead.
You just nailed it. You just nailed it on the head. Speaking of head, you just nailed it on the head, because that's exactly what we should be doing. Look, like I said, yes, every agency, whether it's a police department, whether it's the FBI, whether it's the CIA, the state, every government agency can always use reform.
Right.
But that reform cannot be politically motivated. And these agencies have been infiltrated by the woke movement, and it is political. It is not in the best interest of all Americans.
Nope.
It is in the best, and what they're doing is politically motivated and in the interest of a chosen few Americans that happen to agree with the current leadership. So, no, we're not getting rid of the FBI. And I would love, I actually put a call into Matt Gaetz's office and said, I would like to bet you on whether or not the FBI will ever be abolished. And of course, I didn't get a call back, but I would have bet him. I would have bet him $100 that that will never, ever happen. We can't afford it as a country. I mean, look at our national security issues. You know, we have Iran, a very tumultuous, torrential thing going on there. I mean, it's heated, and we have a national security potential national security crisis there, especially with our allies of Israel and Jordan and Saudi Arabia. On top of that, we got the Ukraine, and I heard a report today that we're moving military weapons into Ukraine, and 5,000 men and women in uniform delivering those things. So, look, we know what we know because the media tells us, and then you got to do your research, right, for God's sake.
And you're right. People need to, because they're living in a fantasy world if they're not paying attention what's happening worldwide.
That's right.
Look at China, right? China is building all these little
China's another one. Yeah.
They're building all these little islands in the outskirts, right, to set up military bases. So when they get ready to attack, they can just do it from there. And we think they're not going to. I think it's more we hope they don't do it, because we were going to have a tough fight if we have to go up against China. It's going to be tough because it's going amazing.
It's going to be tough. But you remember during the Cold War that we were absolutely convinced that the Soviet Union was our enemy, and an enemy they were. But during World War II, we set that into motion. by allying ourselves with Russia to beat Nazi Germany and Italy and Japan. And so, yes, we make strange bedfellows from time to time. You know, it was our country that literally put Saddam Hussein into power because the previous leader from the 1950s on was basically a communist. So we were so afraid of communism, we would put a puppet in there, and then eventually that puppet says, same thing in Libya with Muammar Gaddafi.
Yeah.
And so we do these things, and then when the chickens come home to roost, we're like, we didn't know this was coming. But we did the same thing with Osama bin Laden too. When Osama bin Laden got involved in our foreign policy, we were supporting Osama bin Laden against the Soviets when they were in Afghanistan in the 1980s.
Right.
What did we do? We repeated history. We literally did this, but we laughed. But we were in there. We were in there as long as the Soviets were. We made the same mistake the Soviets did, and we got into bed with the wrong person that we thought we could control. You just can't predict that in a geopolitical situation. You can't do it, and so I think our foreign policy needs to get better. This is why I understand why the country is supporting at this point. Why the country is supporting Ukraine, but this is how it starts. Tulsi Gabbard has warned against it. Members of Congress have warned against it. We are putting our nose where our nose does not belong at this point, and our focus should be on North Korea, Iran, and China at this point. Ukraine is a diversion. Yes, we need to offer support, but to put our people on the ground is a huge mistake for this country. Well, and we will pay on the road.
More than that, I'm looking at it from a domestic point of view for the Ukraine. All the money being spent for the Ukraine, we could use to help people within our own boundaries, right? We have enough issues in our nation that we can address with that money. We can help them emotionally, but I don't think we should be involved. It's really what's going on over there. As far as I'm concerned, it's on them, right? I'm not interested.
Well, it is.
Go ahead.
No, it is we need to be involved on some level, because it is a national security threat. If we had stopped, and FDR did not want to get involved when Hitler started. FDR looked at Hitler as a joke. What did Hitler start doing? Hitler started expanding across Europe, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Austria. You can go down, and this is right. Oh, there's Mike back. Okay, and so the point is, yes, we have to take some involvement in stopping Putin's reign of terror and his. Let me put it down into elementary terms. Putin misses the United Soviet States.
Yes,
the USSR. He misses it. He wants to recreate it. Not unlike some Republicans in our party who would love to see the moral majority in the Christian coalition back. It's not going to happen. We're going to stop it. And the country is not going to stand for that kind of tyranny anymore. And we're not going to allow it to happen with regard to our European allies. Ukraine is a sovereign state, period.
Mikey.
And
Can you hear us?
Yeah, there he is.
Okay, go ahead, Will. Sorry.
Am I frozen again?
No, not yet.
Yeah, I've had to reset. Yeah.
Okay.
I've had to
Well,
reset
in the
my router a
meantime,
few times.
they're probably getting snow or something out there. But the point is, how do you handle this situation? Now, the reason I love history so much is because if you make the same mistakes over again, you've learned nothing. Same thing in our, let's go back to the same thing in our families. And so you keep making the same mistakes over and over again. And, well, then you've learned nothing, and there is no. But Europe is in. You're absolutely right, Chief. You're absolutely right. And so what we're dealing with regard to Iran and China in North Korea and Russia at this point under Vladimir Putin. Look, Vladimir Putin he's overstayed his welcome in the international community.
Right.
Let's face it.
He has.
And he's one of those leaders that just doesn't know when to say it's time to say goodbye. But somebody will convince him of that. Muammar Gaddafi was one of those. Saddam Hussein was one. When we tell you it's time to go, just go.
Time to go.
It's time to go.
Mikey, can you hear me?
Yep.
So we were talking about law enforcement. We kept losing you. What are your thoughts on law enforcement being replaced by these counselors and special teams that have nothing to do with law enforcement? You're cutting out. Yeah, I'm losing you again. Can you hear me?
Well, I'll tell you a story that I just heard yesterday. There was a social worker that went to a house to do a check on a welfare, and she got to the house, and the daughter of the woman they were supposed to do the check on the welfare was there, but she was nuts, bigger, batshit crazy. And finally, the lady had to call the police to come on to help do the check on the welfare, to check on the lady. And she had been dead for about a year in the house. Jeez. And the daughter was cutting the decayed parts out and throwing them out.
Wow.
So,
where did this happen, Mike?
Oh, this happened in my neighborhood.
Really?
Yes.
They need to get you back on the force, dude.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, I'm not the right shade. I can't get a tan.
Hey guys, I think I got Brandon Ocasio from Channel 4 on. Hold on.
Oh, the gift that keeps on giving.
Hey Brandon, how are you?
I'm pretty good. You guys hear me all right?
China first.
China first, buddy. This is what NBC News.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
How's the audio?
It's good.
Okay, buddy. I want to touch base. I want to welcome you guys. You guys are awesome. I love watching you. I love hearing you. And we had that Adam Schiff melee out in the streets in front of his office. It was a great time. Not a lot of people dared to show up at that time. I know it's a weekday, but we did get the message across. It was awesome. Had a lot of thumbs up. Had executives coming out of the office building, coming over to us, thanking us for voicing our opinion on our disgust of Adam Schiff. Full disgust. Now, we all know about Adam and what he's done, but what he's done in the city of Burbank, just touch base on that just real quick. Millions of dollars of federal money coming in for COVID relief funds. First responders in Burbank got zero of it. It all went into the coffers. All the money went into the coffers of Adam Schiff and the twisted Burbank City Council. So, you know, there's not a lot of happy campers. The city workers had to work through the COVID, the sanitation workers, police department, fire department, and they got not $1, not a movie ticket. They didn't get, you know, everybody, we're all the same here. Everybody needs a new refrigerator. Everybody needs to make that payment. They got zero. They had to work. They didn't miss a day. And they saved lives. And that's the thanks that Adam Schiff gave him. Adam Schiff. Shifty Schiff.
That's why he's running away to the Senate, so he can hide in the Senate for a few more years.
You know, he thinks, well, you know what?
Yeah,
honestly,
with the Russia collusion,
I think you know, his campaign. He's got the movie industry behind him. He's got.
Yeah, well, they're dying too.
He's got Joy Behar.
Yeah. Hey, Brandon, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, your audio is the best it's ever been. Absolute great job on that. Secondly, I salute you for actually taking action. But Channel 4 did call me just a minute ago and said they want their truck back. Are you gonna give them their van back or no?
You know, we're gonna take it to the Barstow to Vegas run. Because I'm getting old, I can't ride the dirt bike. And my knees are getting bad, so I'm thinking take that ProMaster, pedal to the metal, Barstow to Vegas, you know, king of the hammers. You know, it's I don't think I'm gonna return it. And speaking of returning stolen items, Prop 47, when you go to the grocery store and you're going down the aisle and you want to buy some shaving blades or whatever, what have you, everything's locked up behind plexiglass.
Yes, it is.
Where you can thank Prop 47 for that.
Yep.
And you know, they got to lock everything up now because people are stuffing their pockets.
Well, a lot of Brandon, a great portion of that reason for that is because the likes of politicians, not leaders, politicians like Gascon and so forth, they put California businesses in jeopardy by saying, you know, you can steal $800-900 worth of stuff. You're not going to be prosecuted. Our prisons are overcrowded anyway. Yeah. It is about the leadership. It's not about the people. It's about the leadership in this state that is the problem. Right. And so I salute you. I salute you for staying on the watchtower.
God bless you. And you know what? It's hurting the very people they purport to be helping, the immigrants, these people that save their money and start their own business. They're going out of business.
Right.
And, you know, it's such a con what they're doing. It's such a facade. It's evil. And the evil that comes out of this woman's mouth every day on ABC channel, I don't know what channel it's, the ABC 10 o'clock in the morning. It's called The View.
Joyless Behar.
This is Joy Behar. She's not a, I call her Behar.
Oh, The View. Brandon, you're right. I can't even stomach The View. I watch every network every day to try to balance the news and so forth. When The View is on, I shut it off. I don't like that whole crew, to be honest with you.
They're terrible. It's a socialist
Joyless Behar.
I watched how they treated Tulsi Gabbard and even Ben Carson. Just absolute. If I didn't know better, I'd say George Soros produces that show.
Probably.
You know, getting back to, hey, Brandon, you heard that Ben Savage is running for Congress, right? For the district.
It's out of control right now.
Disappeared.
People are putting groceries on credit cards. Credit interest rates are going up. It's spiraling out of control. Joe Biden's the worst president we've ever had in the history of the United States. By far.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Agreed.
What I would say is in my lifetime, here's a president, Brandon, that can't admit to the American people we're in a recession.
Yes.
He claims this Build Back America Greater program. And so what he wants to do is put duct tape over our shoes or a can of paint or something.
The media, I honestly believe that, the root of all evil, the media is giving him whatever he wants, unchecked, unquestioned.
Now, why is that, right? You work for the media. Why is that? He's frozen.
Well,
Well,
I can probably answer the question for him.
What's that?
Because it comes to who the corporate sponsors are, number one,
right.
who controls the corporations, and the corporations control the media. Look at the rash of crap Fox News is in.
Yeah.
Recently over this Tucker Carlson thing.
Oh.
And McCarthy is answering for it.
It is beautiful.
It's not beautiful because every Republican in the Republican House and Senate leadership delegations said that Tucker Carlson, they were there on the Capitol. Right. They were there at the Capitol. And they were in fear of their lives. And the Secret Service rushed Mike Pence to safety. So I am not convinced Tucker Carlson is not my be-all end-all.
Well, the Capitol Police Chief put out a memo, which I saw today, and said how he thought everything was so bad and everything else. But here's my point. He wasn't there. How does he know? He's going by what other people are telling him and about what the flunkies that were there before him said.
Well,
Hannity had the deputy chief on last night that was there, and he said the intelligence failure was tremendous. He said they had 18 domestic terrorists that the FBI had been tracking, and nobody.
I do believe that.
To him.
I do believe that, which is why it contradicts what Tucker Carlson said.
Right.
Tucker Carlson didn't look at the infiltration.
Just showing the optics of it.
Now I know, and he shouldn't have done that. I don't know why he's the only.
He was looking, I think, at the optics that they didn't show.
What I don't understand is while other networks were asking for those optics, why he's the only one that got them. Why did Tucker Carlson get them and no other news agency did? That is my big bitch, moan, and groan.
Well,
when it comes to
know what it is, right?
I don't have a problem with that.
There's so much. I'm gonna be nice. There's so much diversity. There's so many friendships in government with media that everybody's aligning with a specific group, but here we go again. Nobody's aligning.
It's our polarization.
They're not aligning with
it's our polarization.
I can see that.
No, Tony, Mike, where are the Walter Cronkites?
Yeah, I agree.
Where are the Tom Brooks? The Peter? Yes, I mean the father of wholesome reporting. Not op-ed pieces, not one station's opinion over the other,
right?
But reporting, basic. These are the facts,
right?
The old Joe Friday thing, but and we don't have that anymore. Everybody wants to be a star,
but
and not do their job.
You're right, because people will buy into people don't want facts anymore. People want fluff, right? Let me give you fluff.
It's that reality. It's that reality TV. It's that reality TV mentality that we've been whining about. That was going to come. It's here now.
Right.
Everybody wants to be on reality television. A reporter.
You hear that go? Whoa.
Channel 4.
Oh, there we go. We got Brandon back.
There he is. up here in the foothills of the beautiful San Fernando Valley. We're at the top of Reseda Boulevard, and it's really nice up here in windy. Reception is not good, but not many people are as lucky and fortunate as us to live in a nice neighborhood. There's a lot of people struggling out there. We're going to be out this weekend trying to help some people out on the streets in North Hollywood. I joke around about it a lot, but this is a sin. This is a holocaust of humanity. And it's all being masked by the Biden administration, their policies, and the media, the mainstream media. This evil right here. This to me is as evil as a swastika. No difference. They have a lot of power right here. And they've been bulldozing and brainwashing everybody for years with their leftist agenda. It's over. I think people are starting to think for themselves and fighting.
And I hope you're right,
I'm
Brad.
not giving up on California.
I really hope people are thinking for themselves so that we can do a better job of electing the right people to positions, unlike we've been doing in the past, like Newsom winning again, right? Newsom wants to be president. And I know that he's gone again. The far left has their agenda, and I don't see Biden, whether he wants to run or not. If he decides to run, he's going to tear up that Democratic Party because it's going to be a fight.
Well, the White House, Tony, the White House this week announced that President Biden named Gavin Newsom is one of his main national campaigners to go on the stump. From now, he's not going to be very welcome in South Dakota, Gavin Newsom, and he's definitely not going to get a very good reception in Florida
or Texas
or Ohio or Texas, Michigan. It's just not going to happen because they're going to look. I mean, I don't know what Biden was thinking, if he was thinking at all, by picking Gavin Newsom to do this job.
Well, I think
that was Brock was talking.
I wouldn't want Gavin Newsom campaigning for me outside of California.
I don't think, again, I'm going to say this. I don't think Biden made that decision. I think Obama made it for him.
Right.
I think that I still believe that Biden, something's going to happen to Biden towards the end of his tenure that he's not going to be able to run for president.
Hold on. Hold on. Oh, crap. I'm looking for my crystal ball. I misplaced it. But if I had a crystal ball, I would say Gavin Newsom. Yes, you do. Here, look. Here we go. And one for Tony too. But it is so blatantly apparent that Gavin Newsom is being groomed for the presidency of the United States by the Democrats, and this is why they don't like. This is why the Democratic Party didn't like Tulsi Gabbard, because she was ungroomable. Tulsi Gabbard is going to be who Tulsi Gabbard is, plain and simple. Whether you agree or disagree with her, what you see is what you get, authentic. And Gavin Newsom is not that. And this is who's in control of the Democratic Party. And Kamala Harris, for God's sake, give me a break.
She should just retire. Like, she should retire. But I think what happens is, let's talk about the candidates that have come out to run for Adam Schiff's district. Ben Savage, right, an actor.
Right.
All of a sudden, he cares about the district and he wants to do something by getting involved in politics. Well, what have you done besides acting? I want to know.
Made money in Hollywood.
Exactly.
And now you, And so the cycle, the vicious cycle of California continues. It's going to be about celebrity and name recognition and so forth. But that does not mean, by any stretch of the imagination, that they cannot be challenged. I've seen actors who have run for office.
Dr. Alice.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, it didn't
We,
work.
we,
Yeah, it didn't
we
work.
need to challenge everybody. If we don't agree with it, we need to challenge them. And grassroots campaigns sound great, but they really have to come into fruition, not talk about it anymore. People need to get engaged and support the right people. And they need to get out
Well,
there.
we need to give it. You're right, Tony. And we need to give them a reason to do exactly that. We need to energize them.
Let me
go ahead,
touch
Brandon.
on that for a second.
Yes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let me just, the news van is getting hot. I got it running out there. And I just want to say that I talked off camera to 2 North Hollywood policemen, and I asked them, I said, dude, it's out of control. What do we do? What are the answers? What do you guys think? I mean, I know your hands are tied. It's been politicized, the LAPD. They've been told to stand down on many calls. I said, what do we do? What's the answer, officers? And they looked at me. These are 2 veteran officers, and this was just 4 days ago. They looked at me and they said, we have to start voting for the right people. And, I'll say it again. I think people in California just have to start voting for the correct people, and we're going to be all right. We're going to save California. God bless you, Tony.
Hey, thank you, Brandon.
Brandon, we salute you. Keep doing what you do.
I salute you, sir, and I appreciate it. And my son is in South Korea right now, and he's
we salute him as well.
And God bless him, and I hope he's safe. And he's going to be there for a few years, so I'm just praying that he's going to be safe for those few years, and everybody else around.
Well, that face that you have, you don't even look like you're out of high school yet.
This is exemplifying the newscasters. They all think they're movie stars, and they got really pretty teeth, and they all got their facials done and their pedicures done. You know what? They're not movie stars to me. They're criminals. They know what's going on. They've been told not to talk about certain stories, and it's fascist. It's a fascist, socialist media that is pure.
And they try And Brandon, they try to call people. When Governor Ron DeSantis came in to speak at the Ronald Reagan Library, before he got there, vandals, whatever group, defaced the sign of the Ronald Reagan Library, calling him a fascist. Now, this is what they do. They call him a fascist, actually doing his job as governor. But out here, we are really the fascist state.
Yeah, we are.
You know what? I want to say about this, the Patriot groups, we're kind of a splintered groups, not a lot of communication. We're not highly organized. We should be. We got to start being. I'll tell you one thing. Antifa, they're highly organized. They stick together, and they're very, very, they did that. They did the vandalism. They'll show up to assault people at certain events.
No doubt. Yeah. I would guess that too. But this is where we are failing.
Right.
Is patriots in this country is we're not taking a playbook out of the enemy.
Nope.
We need to realize we need to create a Big Tent.
That's right.
We need to recognize that the left is trying to put every minority inside their own little box, when they, throughout history, have been the most oppressive of minorities.
Right. They have been.
Well,
yeah, and it continues.
And you know what?
Yeah, San Francisco, guys. You guys heard about San Francisco, right? That they want to give $5 million to every African American in San Francisco for reparations, right?
Reparation.
Now, as far as I know,
how many slaves were picking? How many slaves were picking cotton in San Francisco, for God's sake?
Here's my thought, right? So you want to protect the African American community, which, whatever happened. $5 million per person, right? That averages out to about $94,000 a year. That means they're not going to work. Number one. Number two, if California was not a slave state. We were a free state as far as I can remember. Maybe
Yes.
I could be wrong in my history, but we were a free state, so
Right.
we didn't have any slaves. So we want to pay reparations for a state that didn't have slaves. It makes a lot of sense to me. Number one. Number two.
Well, here. Yeah, go ahead, Tony. Answer.
Why don't we might as well go after the Asian community and give them reparations because they built all our railroads in California, right? Slaves,
That's right.
That's what they really were back in the day. But we're not talking about them. We're just talking about African American groups.
Your history is absolutely correct. We were not a slave
if we
state.
give them the
We were not a slave state.
money for reparations, they'll stop breaking our stores.
Yeah, that's what they got. The one guy said it on a speech. We need that money so we don't rob you. That's basically what he said.
Oh, it's
That's
extortion.
Right.
That's
It's
extortion.
absolute extortion. This is what the cartels do down in Mexico. That's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. I'm calling bullshit. But if you want to talk about California being a slave state, look at our tax rate now. Look at the home census now. Now we are a slave state.
Absolutely.
Well, we weren't back then. Who's going to give us reparations?
Nobody, because we don't matter.
No,
right?
we have to do it ourselves. Right?
We don't matter. We have to fight, and that's what I think we need to draw the line. And I don't mean violently, but draw the line and say this is where it ends. This is our state. This is our land, not yours. Right? But
saying no in a non-violent manner is our weapon of refusal.
Yep.
And we are allowed to say no. At the ballot box, what Brandon's doing with protests outside, if more people called their congressmen and literally bitched and moaned and groaned every day. But I noticed, I've done lobbying on some issues. I've noticed you call a vast majority of members of Congress, both the House and the Senate, it goes to voicemail. There's not even a person that answers the phone anymore.
That's right.
It's not like it was when I was growing up. That's for sure.
No. I want to touch on something real quick. We don't have a lot of time left, but John Fetterman, I think I mentioned this to you on a text message. Well, he's in a hospital, but we don't hear anything about his condition, what's really going on. I also heard that his wife took his kids and left the country. I don't know if they went on vacation or they left, right?
Yep.
Permanently.
Went to Canada.
Did they?
They went down to Mexico for a medical procedure.
So
it's called bone death.
So
they went to Canada.
Why, if it was any other politician, they would be giving us updates on his health and his condition. Why don't we get any?
Yeah, nobody cares. Nobody cares. I did put a call into his office, and no response. But there are people that care. I think what he did was honest, authentic, and I think courageous. That's what I think. And people can disagree with me, but to be able to admit your frailties, I think is a huge thing.
It's not what he did. My question is, why? If it was AOC, we'd be hearing news all the time about his condition or her condition, right? We're not hearing anything about his condition. That's my concern. I admire a person that can say, I need help, right? I admire that from anybody, right? Because all of us need help from somebody at some time. The fact that nothing is reported about it is my concerning part. The fact that
it's very concerning.
His family bailed on him, that's another fact, right? To me, that's a red flag. Right? So there's something more to the story than we're aware of.
Well, speaking of help.
Yes, sir.
Yes, speaking of help, our president tripped up the stairs again on Air Force One, so now they're putting an escalator in for him.
I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far. I would keep the stairs up there and then just put one of those chairs that slide up the side of the banister in your home. Just put one of those. It's cheaper. It's cheaper.
Yeah. The sad part is that this president is not all there mentally,
That's right.
and it's kind of an embarrassment, not to the nation, but to himself, right, and his family, that they're allowing him to continue to be president when we all know he can't do it, right? He shouldn't be doing it. I wouldn't want,
right?
If I'm not able to drive, I don't want to drive, right? I don't want to put somebody else's life at risk. And with in his mental state, I just can't see him making good decisions in the end of the day. So
he's got a job lined up. Baskin Robbins is looking for people to help them out.
Well, guys, we're at the top of the hour. So I want to thank Brandon for being on the show tonight.
Brandon, Tony, Mike, I salute all of you.
Mikey, Will, and I want to thank our audience.
Joyless Rodriguez.
That's right. I want to thank our audience. We're going to be making an announcement soon. I will give everybody the exact date that it's going to be announced. Stay tuned for that announcement because you're going to love it. Thank you.
And Al,
Long Beach.
Al, we missed you tonight, buddy.
Hey, Al, I'm going to call you after the show. We need to chat, buddy. Have a good night.
Thanks for joining. Thank you, Tony.
Brandon, keep keeping on. Great job.
Stay in the fight, guys.
God bless you. Thank you.